I'm Yo-Yo.
And I'm Katia. Welcome to our podcast.
Each week we learn from the experts about all things women's health and happiness.
We are two very normal, imperfect women.
Navigating this crazy thing called life.
And trying to stay happy and healthy while we do it. So, grab a cuppa.
Or tidy away that pile of laundry.
And enjoy our discoveries. Hello and welcome.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 60.
Yes, we have a bit of a different episode today.
I know, it's a little different from the usual experts, but I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was we've got the lovely Ineke Meredith on, who is a author, and she's written a book called On Call. She is a surgeon, and she's basically pulled together all her kind of it's like a memoirs, all the stories of all her patients, of which you do anyway for record keeping.
Yes.
But she's pulled it onto the story and then entwined that with her life journey to bring this book out.
Absolutely, it's like a life, her life training in medicine, being a surgeon, being a trainee surgeon, all the difficult things she went through, and as we talked to her about it, it's not about surgery. It's not like this is only relevant for surgeons. It's like it's the hardship she went through, the life lessons she's learned from it, the things she's learned about women in a tough profession. So
Yes.
whether that is surgery, whether that is a different profession, it's relevant.
And she puts a real real person element to the stories of the patients as well. So
Yes.
she kind of it's an emotive. There's funny stories in there too, and there's really interesting ones, but there's some heartbreaking ones that really kind of capture she makes them into a real person,
Yeah.
which make you kind of a bit more understandable. Is that the right word?
Yeah, it's a journey also for the patients that she's seen.
And she makes it feel a bit more like they're real people and they matter. Human, that's what I mean.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
humane.
So yeah, brilliant. So you got so much out of this conversation. But just telling you a little bit about Ineke herself.
Yes, she was born in New Zealand to parents of mixed Samoan heritage, and she spent part of her childhood in Samoa, but then moved to New Zealand after winning a scholarship to study medicine.
She graduated from Otago Medical School in Dunedin in 2003 with I'm going to say this, MBCHB, and this is some kind of medical qualification, and became a Fellow of the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons in 2014.
Yes, and then in 2015, she commenced her subspecialty in training in breast cancer and reconstruction, and is now a general surgeon in the area. She's travelled the world and published research articles in international peer-reviewed medical journals too.
And now she lives in Paris with her husband and has also founded a dog skin and body care business, which is called Fur Love. So that's also part of what she does, so it's worth mentioning.
Yes, no, I'm in awe that she had time to do that as well.
know.
I was like,
So-
how do you founded a business?
Throughout this whole journey of her life training in medicine and working, I think like us, we are such busy people. Reading through it, it's like, how did you manage to do all this stuff?
Oh, honestly, it's
impressive.
It's like tough grit that she has, and I don't know.
Definitely a book about grit and determination and support around you.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll leave it at that. Don't want a spoiler.
I think the key lessons that she starts at the beginning saying is that something that everybody can bring into, and actually, I think there's a lot of life lessons you can take away and a lot to be grateful for when you listen to this conversation. And I think, she's had a remarkable life, and it's not been easy. And I think that comes through. But she's so lovely as well.
Yeah, this was just a nice chat. It really felt like a two-way conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got to know her throughout this chat.
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
really nice.
Without further ado, we shall let you listen. And thank you to Ineke for being our guest this week.
Yes, thank you. We loved this chat, and I'm pretty sure you might love it too. Enjoy. Hello, Ineke. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we've just been delving into your book
Right.
in the last couple of weeks.
Yes,
And
amazing.
and we're so excited to chat to you all about your pearls of wisdom from your life story.
Not sure if they're pearls of wisdom, but
I'm sure
let's
you
go.
have. So your book is brutally honest, very moving, at times a little bit harrowing account of your life as a surgeon in medical training and throughout, having a family. It's such a journey. So, I mean, just to start with and to dive straight in, could you tell us, as a top line summary maybe, what are the main life lessons that you've learned from this whole journey?
We're right in.
Yeah, right in.
Okay. Well, actually, I have a couple off the top of my head, and the reason I have this is because, number one, let's say the lessons. Number one, you need people. You need people. And number two, you need to be able to escalate problems and know that pathway. And the reason I have these front of mind is because I was asked to give a talk to girl boss, thousands of young women who want to do STEM, who want to do engineering, medicine, age 17 to 18 years. And, really young women who want to do it all. And that's wonderful because I was there. And the woman speaking before me is a physician in the States, ex-Ivy League, Harvard or something like that. And she spoke before me and she said to the young girls, you can do it, and we were always told that you can do it. And it's easy to say, but actually you can do it, sure. But it's really hard. It's really hard to do it. As women, we're told you can do it all. You can have the career, you can have the family, we can do it because we're women. But actually there is a cost and it's tough. And so if you want to do it, I heard that and I said to myself, okay, I need to think a little bit more practically. What are some key takeaways that I can give to young women to set themselves up for success? And, number one, we think we can do it. And sometimes we think we can do it alone, but you can't. You need people around you. And, the further we go along in life, the more baggage we have children, we have relationships, we have things break down all the time. Unfortunately, that's life. Things don't always go according to plan. And you need people, you need friends, you need family, you need somebody to talk to, you need somebody who can help you reset your GPS, because it's easy for us to feel overwhelmed and not know whether it's real. You need somebody just to say, look, sleep on it, and wake up tomorrow morning and then make a decision. And, we need to be able to escalate in surgery. We get a lot of situational questions when we're interviewing for jobs or for positions. And it's something like, your boss is bullying you at work. What do you do? And so now I know the pathway is, you talk to your colleague or a friend, then you escalate to the next person, then you escalate to the next person. But why are we learning that so late in life? Like, what about just being in school and learning how to escalate problems, not being ashamed, knowing who to talk to, be it a friend, be it your mother, your father, a teacher, blah, 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 have those pathways in place. And so I think those are simple key life lessons.
Definitely.
Yeah, especially from your book, we've not really talked about, but you straight off, like when you have you find out no spoiler alert, but you're pregnant with your son, and you talk about your village at that point. Like, to me, I was like, oh my gosh, how you did that, and you did acknowledge that you needed your village, and that was just like the first point. But throughout the book, there is that running theme of like family, somebody there, or somebody you turn to, and there's also the theme of loneliness as well. So it's kind of like, I just want to say that you've had all those things, but in a really, I feel like your learning of those lessons have been so acute in a way. It's been the hardest way possible to learn those lessons, but it's so relevant to everybody else.
Yeah.
I
think we learn them late.
Yes.
I think we learn them in retrospect after the pain. And so, the hope is always that you can, especially your own children. I have a son, or your family, or, people you love. Can I help you go through something without so much pain? But of course, our parents are the same thing. They try to tell you, how you should do things, and we never listen. And then we get to the end, we're like, damn, they were right, you know?
Yeah. And also the thing about you saying how to escalate problems is in how to ask people who know more about this problem than you do for advice. I mean, that's super prevalent in all the examples that you give with surgery in your book.
Yeah.
But that just shows also how you kind of have to swallow your pride a little bit. You kind of, and that helps in life as well, isn't it? Like, don't feel too prideful to help to ask someone
Yeah.
that has more experience in
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
It's not a shame and it's not a failure. And if it's happening, it's happened to somebody else, actually. And there are people who will help. You just need to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
But I feel like it's such an important lesson we don't get taught at a young age.
No, you don't. And especially
Yeah.
things like you get nervous to put your hand up in school, even in the lesson, if you don't understand it. I remember reading a book once, and it was saying that this woman was there in a lecture hall and she didn't understand what was being said until one girl put her hand up and said, I really do not understand. And it was at university. And actually, then she understood it more. And because it was only because of that girl who put her hand up, because she was too scared to. And there was no reason to be. It's a weird concept we have that she wasn't the only one who couldn't understand, but somebody else had the bravery.
Exactly. If you're feeling that way, it's somebody else has felt that way before.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah. So your book it's kind of a memoir. There's lots of examples. There's like funny parts in it. There's obviously like heartbreaking parts in it as well. What made you want to write it, and why now?
Well, actually, I didn't start the writing as a book.
Okay.
I started, in medicine, we write stories, patient stories, because the patient comes in, they tell us what's happening, and we write. It's part of record keeping. And the reason I started to write stories was because I was sad, because it is sad. It's hard to go home and be normal when you have seen somebody 10 years younger than yourself, and actually she's 20, and she's dying of cancer, and she's got a young family and young children, and, she's going to die in a couple of weeks. And then you go home and what do? You pretend like life is normal. I found it very hard to reconcile that. So I just started to write stories, kind of as a recognition, kind of as catharsis, because it's sad that these stories just pass through us. It happens. She comes in, she dies 2 weeks later. It's done. Yeah. She's gone, and that's quite sad.
Yeah.
That's very sad. So I was carrying a lot of the sadness around, and I suppose it's like the best singer-songwriters who write songs about sadness and relationship breakdown and heartbreak, Taylor Swift and Adele. And so I just wrote the stories, and after 50,000 words, I had enough to send to an agent or send to a publisher, and HarperCollins took it. But they said, look, we love this. We love the stories, but we want to hear about your own life. And so then I had to go back and write about my own life in parallel, which, I had to think about a bit whether I wanted to do that, because I'd always been quite private. But even that was cathartic,
Yeah.
I think also a lot of people, if they'd read the stories, that you're a really high achiever, but it didn't come easy. Like, you had to work at it. I think resilience and hard work and keeping trying, like, you had some knockbacks and you carried on. So I think a lot of people would actually relate to that part. The stories are the stories, and that, they are heartbreaking, but your journey is actually very relatable on a smaller scale, and maybe not as such a, people aren't surgeons, but it is relatable.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important through the run of the book. You're a real person at the end of the day.
I've been really surprised by the messaging, because I get messaging from the book touches multiple people in different ways. I've had a woman in her 30s who said, that story about the woman and her children and she's dying touches me. And I was reading it in the gym and I was crying and crying, thinking that this was me and that this could be me. And so it's touched multiple people in different ways. People who look after their own parents going through cancer, people who've had families go through cancer.
Yeah. I think it's amazing that you say you're a private person. I think the level of depth that you've gone into privately, considering that you're a private person, I think that's amazing that you've opened up so much in the book. That's well done.
Thank you. My husband read it at the end and he said, are you sure you want to write all this? Because you never tell anybody. When my mother was living with me going through chemotherapy, none of my friends knew. And then when the book came out in May, I was having coffee with a friend who I'd worked with who I've known for years. And he said, "You didn't tell me. Why should we have spoken more?" And I said, "Well, no, you know what? I came to work and I was happy to come to work and just compartmentalize my life," which is a bit sad because we spend a lot of time with work colleagues. In fact, we spend a lot of time with work colleagues. And, sometimes you just have no idea what's going on in people's lives.
Yeah. Absolutely. On the surface level, someone can just look healthy and functioning and achieving,
Absolutely.
but actually there's all sorts of stuff going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like that image of a swan.
Yes,
Their little legs are like going crazy underneath.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that almost always describes me. Definitely. But yeah, so you go through so many, like, as a non-surgeon reading your book, I'm almost like kind of reading it through my eyes sometimes when it's all the surgical situations. So you've gone through some really interesting, harrowing situations where people's lives are in your hands, What would you say are some of the most character building experiences? Take that in any way you want.
Yeah. So I have one that comes to mind. Of course, in regards to the surgical pathway, you have your firsts. The first time you do taking out appendix on your own, the first time you take out a colon on your own, like all those that, wow, like I'm moving ahead. But one of the key points, and this comes back to just general life lessons, one of the key challenges in surgery is managing people and training in surgery. People management is so important. And one of the key character building moments that I can think of, and I was towards the end of my surgical training, like near consultancy, I had another 18 months to go. And I was working in a very, very, very busy surgical unit, sick people. And I was working for a consultant who was a bully. And he was a bully. And he was a bully to his colleagues, to his staff. Horrible man, little man. And I wouldn't have him as a patient. Let's say that. And then one day he asked me to take a patient to theatre. The patient had been very, very unwell. And it was a simple operation, just a leg wound, but it was like one part of his major picture. He'd been in an ICU for months and months. And then the patient came out of theatre and died in recovery. Because of the anesthetic, because he'd been in kidney failure, because actually he was just generally poorly. But this consultant turned around and said, "How could you do that? You took this patient to theatre without my permission." Actually, he had told me to take the patient to theatre, and it was all through the notes. ICU had written in the notes that, we document everything. So he turned around in theatre, in recovery, swearing at me, "F you, F this, this is my effing patient. I told you not to take this patient to theatre." And this was this was the straw that broke the camel's back, actually. He'd been relentless to me and to the junior staff. So I thought to myself, I'm going to make a complaint about him. I'm going to make a big complaint. And in surgery, there's this tradition, you just get on and you do things. But I thought, you know what? It's not for me. It's for the next person coming onto this rotation. If I can, there has to be a threshold at which, if we're making enough complaints, if people are saying enough, then the hospital has to do something. And everybody said to me, "Don't do it. Don't worry about it. You're going to pass the run. If everybody thinks he's unreasonable, just don't worry about it." Well, if everybody thinks he's unreasonable, then why are we not doing something about it? So I made a complaint, and he had to apologize. But most importantly, then they took the next person off the rotation because it was not safe to be training young surgeon.
Amazing.
So that was, I went home and I slept on it. I slept on it for a few days, talked to some people, took some advice. But then I thought to myself at the end, would I regret it if I did not do anything, if I did not say anything? And I would have. So
Yeah.
that was character building. You know, you have to choose very carefully the fights that you fight. But if it does not sit well within you, then you have to say something.
That's incredible. Well done. That
Yeah.
takes a lot of
Thank
courage
you.
as well.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
you're going against the grain of everything, like,
Right.
just get through it. And you're like,
totally.
Yeah.
but it's so amazing result as well. The next person got taken off. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
totally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you listen
exactly.
to your intuition,
Yes.
kind of, even if the intuition was against the kind of everyone taking the easy
Yeah.
route.
Yeah. Am I going to regret it? You know, they said, you know, do I care if he's going to fail me? Well, actually, no. He's so bad as a person. I just, you know, I had to say something.
Well done for standing firm.
Thank you.
Definitely.
So this was I think this was one of my most challenging personal and professional moments, actually.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, I can see that. I would have taken a lot of courage, especially when you go against the grain like that. It's like, but it funnily, you just made me think about that whole chapter of like great work, nurse. I think it's called.
Right.
Like,
Right.
which is all about, for listeners, it's all about how women are perceived in the medical world, basically. And some of the stories you tell are just, I was like, my blood was boiling. And I don't know how you sat through it, because sometimes you just have to, and it's like, it's not, as you said, battles need to be picked. But is it still like that now, do you think, in the fact that, you know, or do you think times are changing?
I think times are changing, but they're changing slowly. And actually, one of the, you know, I got a long email from a woman surgeon who was the ex-president of our College of Surgeons in New Zealand and Australia. And she wrote that it had been the same for her, and that she was sorry that she had not done more to change the environment for young women coming through. I think it's better, because now we say, we don't accept derogatory jokes in theatre, for example. We don't accept, you know, sexism in the workplace. And now we've got young male surgeons, our generation, who want to take paternity leave, who understand that women are actually very good surgeons. It's changing slowly, but it's still not, you know, you know, the thing about choosing the battles is tough, because if you're in a ward round and I'm the only woman, and actually there are 5 or 6 other male surgeons or staff, it will always be you asked to butter the toast. It will always be you asked to get the cup of tea. And you know, it will, if you as a female talk, and this is not all the time, but of course it happens on a daily basis. Like, it's repetitive.
Yeah.
Once or twice a day.
Repetitive.
So it's repetitive, right? So then sort of it gets to here, you know, your nose is deep in it, and little things can set you off. And this is what I mean about resetting your GPS. Sometimes talking to a friend, if I overinterpreted this, But recently, and you talk about, if it's getting better, there are studies now that show, and I spoke about this briefly in the book, but that 1 million patients comparing outcomes, death, and complications, women surgeons versus male surgeons in general surgery and cardiac surgery. And women surgeons have better outcomes. If you're a patient, you're less likely to die if you have a woman surgeon. And you're less likely to have complications if you have a woman surgeon, especially if you're a female patient.
I love that, but I love
Right.
that, yeah.
Wow. Exactly. Wow. But so recently, and these studies have come out the last 2 years, there's a lot of dialogue about it. But one of the questions I always get asked is, do you think that these differences are due to women having more empathy and being better communicators? Okay. Well, if the situation was reversed and it showed that men had better outcomes, we would not question it, actually. We'd say, of course, men are technically better. They're better surgeons, right? Why are we even questioning and trying to explain why women might be better surgeons? Yeah. Actually, they're technically better. And if it was the reverse, we would blame it on empathy and communication. Oh, women are too sensitive. You know, women have too much empathy. So it's changing. But of course, there's still this unconscious bias, actually, that exists.
There's an unconscious cultural bias, like you said, and it's going to take
generational
shift. long time for that
years
to
and years
fully
and years.
fade away.
Right.
Yeah, wow.
But just for a really like simple, like in the book, one simple example of what we're talking about is that you were talking to a radiographer, weren't you? Just behind a closed door, and like talking about our patient's results or something. And someone came in, like, and a male doctor or consultant came in and went, "Have you finished gossiping?" Because and you said the phrase of, "Oh, because we couldn't possibly be talking about work. That's all women do." And it's just classic examples like that. It's such a small comment, but it actually means quite a lot.
Totally, absolutely, and it happens every day.
Yeah.
So of course people go, "Oh, well, it's just don't worry about it. It's nothing." But actually, do you know that happens every day?
Yeah. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
But then also on a positive note, I loved the anecdote when you said about the guy reading the book at the start of that scene, and he was like, "Would you choose to have?" I'm reading out the book because it's so good. This chapter is amazing. He said, "Would you choose to have a doctor that looks like a doctor or a doctor that doesn't look like a doctor?" And the answer was, not the doctor that the one that doesn't look like a doctor, because they've had to work harder to prove every day they're capable. And I was like, "Ooh, good answer."
Exactly, I loved it, and it makes me think of the way women train, because of course in this dialogue about how women have better outcomes than male surgeons, women train differently, right? And again, I'm talking very generally, but actually, I think most people would say the same. As a woman surgeon, a young woman going through training, you take on an operation, you do an operation independently when you feel like you will do it perfectly. When I feel like I can do it on my own, independently, nothing will happen. And it takes a long time for you to get there. You might need to do an operation with your consultant 20 times before you feel confident enough to do it on your own. In general, a male might do it once, right? And then he'll say, "I'm ready. Like, I can do this operation tomorrow." So again, it's a major generalization, but it's not far from the truth. So women train differently.
Yes.
So of course, maybe they're technically better because they understand their own limits and they're perfectionists.
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, I have so in all areas of life, not just surgery, but in general, I think men are more comfortable with the kind of fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
Whereas women are less comfortable with that. And they're like, no, I need to know what I'm doing before I can be trusted to do this thing.
Yeah, even in things like asking for a pay rise, the guy like, "Yes, I think I deserve that now." And like women like, "Oh, I don't think I've ticked all these boxes."
Right.
Because I've not had the opportunity to. And I would actually nail it if I could, but they're like, "Oh, I don't think I've done that, so I'm not going to ask."
Yeah,
absolutely. A good friend of mine, he's a human resources for Ernst & Young, and he says the same thing. He says when a male gets promoted, when a female gets promoted, she says, "I'm not sure, I don't know, I'm not sure if I have the skill, I don't know if I can do it." And when a male gets promoted, and in Ernst & Young, he says, "Well, I should have had that promotion a long time ago." You know. So,
but you mean in some areas of life, that's a really beneficial attitude. I think having that bigger confidence. I do think fake it until you make it.
I think women need
helps.
to boost themselves up and realise that they
100%.
would be able to do it. I think it's not necessarily the males are wrong in there. It's the females need to have that confidence.
We could try to imitate that, but not in surgery, because actually you don't want. There, you need to know. what you're
I'd rather you did it 20 times than once.
That's the exception, definitely. Yeah.
No, but women need to back themselves, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's great that you have people like you and even the ex-president of the surgical department that they are also now saying they recognise it and they know it's something that needs to be changed, and those slow changes and people making writing books like this and highlighting it is important too.
Right. And I listened to some female journalists last year that it was a Global Women's Forum, BBC, CNN, I think it was Al Jazeera, and they said, they try to find female experts all the time for their panels, discussions, interviews, but it's tough to find female interviewers. The same thing, female experts, same thing. I don't know, I'm not sure. So of course you have the same male experts speaking all the time. And you have to actively, number one, tell women to sit at the front, take the front seat, be confident in yourself. And number two, people need to actively seek women's opinions.
Yeah,
exactly. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. We'd love to help more women out there, so please subscribe, rate and review, which helps more people find us. And share this episode with any friends who you think will enjoy it too. Thank you. And without further ado, here's the rest of the episode.
Yeah. Interesting. Ooh, still some work to be done in society.
Yeah, exactly.
On this topic.
Yeah.
But so that speaking of, look, at the beginning you did say you're generally a private person, so I'm sorry to delve a bit privately, but you have written it in your book.
Right, yes.
You're very open about your family, your father's relationship with the family. He was a little bit of a tendency towards violence against all your siblings and you and your mum. So you have had tough times, and you said the tough times helped you in the medical training, because you could withstand anyone shouting at you, because you're like,
Right.
I've had tougher.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
Exactly. Bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on. You can't do anything worse to me. But do you think, so it's not necessarily abuse, but do you think tough times help people generally to do more things out of their comfort zone? Like, do you think it helped you, or do you think, what's your thoughts about that?
Yes, I'm going to say yes, it did for me. But I also had opportunity, right? So I don't want to generalize and say people having tough times, going through tough times, can end up with these amazing positive outcomes, because there are tough times and there are tough times.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to have a mother who was, light and positive, and her family who were very well educated. So I had a vision for how things could be. And actually I had a role model who was my mother, who actually, despite all of that, her relationship with her husband, which was, not the loving relationship she wanted, and was violent at times, she didn't stop. She was relentless in her pursuit of life, and supporting her children and loving her children. And she was surrounded by a loving family. And so I was lucky to have that.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, I absolutely, I believe that, out of any tough situation, okay, I'm not going to say any because that's a major generalization, but where we can, tough times can make us better. We can learn from it. And we know, for example, okay, tough surgical rotations. I knew the surgeon I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
I knew the surgeon that I needed to be, to inspire young people, to make people better, to motivate people, to set people up for success. So you can be better. And that's part of, I suppose, learning in life, right?
Yeah.
You have to take a situation, learn from it, make yourself better, and move on.
Yeah. And also, so it's nice to hear that actually having such a strong role model in your mum helped in that journey as well. So it's not just having the tough situations, it's having both,
people,
having a little bit of toughness, but then having that someone to look up to.
And the opportunities, I had the opportunity to leave, and the scholarship and studying abroad.
But you did work hard for that.
Oh, yes.
Sure, I did.
So that's the thing, is you had tough, but you worked hard for that, where, it's classic where you think, oh, you got the scholarship, like, well done, that's luck. But it's not luck. You did work hard, and your friends...
You have to create your luck.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, anyone reading your book will realise you definitely worked for it. So you weren't handed anything on a plate. Definitely. Wow. So in your book you also go into how you found out you were pregnant on a little bit of a surprise during your medical training, while you were also doing a lot of sport. You were training for a netball team.
Netball.
Yeah, so you're doing so much going on in your life, and first of all, respect for surviving that period of, like, being pregnant, finding out late, having such a busy job, doing all the stuff you were doing. Can you maybe think about, first of all, maybe describe in detail to listeners what happened, and maybe how you think about it now? If there's anything you were proud of that you did, anything that you might, in hindsight, have done differently, just the journey of a busy single mum.
Well, I was 21 at the time, and my son is now 21, and I look at him and I think, wow, babies, I was a baby having a baby. But I was 21, I was like final year med school, And I found out very late, actually. I was 6 months. I'd been training for the World Championships, and probably, okay, there was an element of denial, major element of denial. But of course, at 6 months, I was told I was pregnant. That's it, you're having a baby in 3 months. And I was final year medicine doing pediatrics. And well, I was shocked. And I was sitting there with this all alone, wondering what the hell I was going to do because I had to finish med school. And I didn't tell a soul again, but I told one friend who said to me, look, you're not looking well, what's happening? And I said to her, well, I'm pregnant. She said, well, you should tell your mum because your mum will probably be really happy. And actually she was right. My mother was over the moon. But of course, I was final year med school. I had final year exams to do. And I gave birth on a Monday and the exam was on a Friday. And I asked to have the exam pushed back. And they said, no, you have to sit your exam.
Wow.
But they would have moved, like now in retrospect, I think if somebody had a cold or a fever or, glandular fever, they would have moved it. But they said no. So of course, as a woman, and we do this a lot, we go, okay, well, I'm going to do it. I can do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you. And I think as women, we do that. I'm going to show you I can do it. And this is how we kind of keep jumping these hurdles and putting this pressure on ourselves because we just say, well, let's just get on and do it. I'm going to show them I can do it. Okay, I did it. I aced it. And I was so proud of myself. But of course, that probably in retrospect, I would have fought myself for myself a bit more. But it was such a moment of shame, med school, pregnant, carrying a baby, there's one of you like that. And you don't want to rock the boat and you want to prove that you can do it and you want to get through med school, you want to graduate with the class. So you really just want to just move on with the crew and pretend and just do it, show everybody that you can do it. And we do that a lot as women. And the workplace, having children, juggling families, be it your own children, be it your parents, because we know when our parents become unwell, well, hopefully they don't, but when they do, as they often do, then it's us as women who take the role of caregivers. Yeah. And we pretend like everything's okay and we can get on and we can do it. So, we have to learn to fight for ourselves a bit better because actually, as I said in the beginning, a lot of people are going through the same thing and people can understand that this is just a normal life process, but we have this shame or this idea that we can just do it. But I was 21 at the time, so it's a bit young. Babies trying to negotiate the world.
Wow. Yeah, I don't honestly I think the fact it was probably thrown on you, and there's nothing you could do about it. At that point, you were like, right, this is decisions made. You were just like, right, I've got to make decisions as well, and we're going to keep doing because you're on this path.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it you don't want to give up the 5 years as well of hard work and the things you've gone through to get there. You'd worked hard. So I completely understand where you were, but you did speak about your village and having the people around you, like your brother and sister.
So your brother and sister came and moved in with you in
absolutely.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was great that you could.
I'm glad that they all rallied round.
Yeah, no, I've got a great family. And, when I left home, I thought, I'm leaving home. This is it. I'm going to go. I'm going to move away. I want to be far away. I don't need family. But, I was wrong.
Yeah, amazing. And then so when your son was a little baby, you still had to go on night shifts and do all the last kind of the on-call surgeries and things. How did you manage that with kind of him maybe not sleeping through the night and all that sleep stuff? Because I mean we've got young children and the sleep issue is already challenging enough. I don't understand how you could also do night shifts. How did that happen?
Well, very bespoke, just an emergency hotline, neighbors, sister, brother, anybody, anything.
Yeah.
Really, but my family, they were there a lot, actually. My mother, my sisters, my brother, they were really a huge part of it. But when they weren't there, then it was really just anybody who could help.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe in New Zealand, maybe there's a more of a community atmosphere still. I don't know. I spent 10 years ago, I was in New Zealand for a year, and I did feel like I absolutely loved it. But it felt like it was society just a little bit back in the day, slightly more community vibes, slightly more neighborhood trust. Was that the case, maybe?
Yeah, I think depend. Yeah, of course, depends on your neighborhood, but of course, yes. In a lot of places, you can still find that all the kids go to school in the same area, the same. They all walk together. Parents look out for other children, so it's a good place to bring up young families. But sometimes I said to my son, "Look, I'm running late, or I've got to go back to the hospital. Don't open the door. Don't open the door to anybody. Don't answer the phone. You're not supposed to be home alone. Don't tell your friends. Eat this. Don't eat that. I'm going to be back." So it was very much like, just
Wow.
constantly getting water out of the leaky boat.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh.
Respect that you
Yeah.
survived that
Thank
period.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You several times in your book you described how you did do sport and exercise and maybe running here and there. How did exercise help you throughout all these busy, intense phases of your life?
Well, exercise is my out. Actually, it's my release. It's where and you can do it anywhere. I put my sneakers on and I run. You can be traveling, put your sneakers on, run, and so actually, it's my way of clearing my head. It's always been, and unfortunately, my son hates it. He doesn't see the reason to be uncomfortable. Why would you do anything that makes you uncomfortable? This is what he says to me. But no, it's my out. I need it. It's my mental wellness, running and exercise. And I've always been that way. And in New Zealand, that's a lifestyle. So
nice.
I take that with me wherever I go.
It's amazing. I mean, reading your book, I would imagine you would be almost constantly sleep deprived, quite tired physically. So when I was then reading, and then after a shift, you would go for a run. I was like, wow. But I mean, personally, I love running for that reason as well.
Right.
But and then you said it helped you then sit down to focus on studying for extra exams.
Yeah. It clears your head. You feel the air on your face. After a long day in the hospital and theatre, which is often underground, no light. Then just feeling the air on your face.
Yeah, it's lovely. We love that, don't we?
I know. Yeah, it's just nice to be outside sometimes. When you've been sat inside an office or just like a little blues of love. When we get outside, we're like, right.
This is what I missed.
Yeah. And this is translatable to anyone in any different profession. Like, it doesn't have to be surgery. It's anyone who's, even if you're physically and mentally tired and you've been stuck inside an artificially lit place all day.
Yeah.
Even if you feel tired, going for a little walk in the fresh air or a run or whatever.
Yeah.
And also that habit, it's like it's a very good, as you said, it really helped you. It's kind of like the full stop on that part of the day. And it's the signal into you that I'm going for a run, we're resetting for the next part of the day. And having that little bit of routine that's a walk or a jog or something that's not like maybe like a bottle of wine, which can quite easily be the way some people finish the day. After
wine and Netflix,
and your phone. Actually, it's nice to have a break from your phone and the screens and just to get out again. And actually, in Paris, it's been a big part of my life, like moving countries and moving a life, which is super tough, and making new friends and find actually what I know and what I know makes me feel better and makes me feel like myself and makes me feel like I'm in control is running, is sport.
Yeah.
So can we just talk about, because you're in Paris now,
yes.
Can we talk about how you shifted into the travel between Paris and New Zealand and what you do now and how you came to that kind of subspecialty?
So I I live in Paris now, as you said, and I'm a reconstructive breast surgeon. And I trained in New Zealand, and I'm married to a Frenchman, which is why I'm in Paris now. And he's one of the top oncoplastic breast surgeons in the world. And we were traveling back and forth to each other. We fell in love 7, 8 years ago, and we were traveling back and forth to each other every 6 weeks. It was, meeting halfway, LA, Tokyo, wherever we could. And then COVID hit. And I remember it because we were supposed to meet in Dubai. And in New Zealand, they said, we think we're going to close the borders. And we were supposed to meet the week after. And I called my husband and I said, I think we need to get on the plane now. And I said, the planes are going to start flying. He said, Cherie, the planes are going to stop flying. Don't be so dramatic. The planes are not going to stop flying. And sure enough, as we know, the 20th of March, I think, 2020, the planes stopped flying.
New Zealand literally shut down, didn't it?
For 2 years,
closed everything, yeah.
Closed. So of course, it was harder to travel back and forth. We couldn't see each other for 6 months. And it was more expensive. And then it was less fun. It's not fun anymore, actually. It's really hard. And, okay, what are we doing? Of course, COVID made everyone re-examine their lives. What's important? Where do we want to be if this happens again? What side of the world? And so I decided to bite the bullet and move to Paris. So I'm juggling multiple balls. Surgery is one of them. And the other is my company, which is a company for dog skincare.
Yeah, fantastic.
So that's and then of course there's the book, which got released this year. So I've been busy juggling.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I feel like there's one person who can juggle it, though. It's you.
If I would trust anyone,
you're not giving yourself
juggle.
A break, though.
Yeah.
It's like, where's that break?
Except I'm not sure the balls are all in the air,
You've always got to just choose which is the least breakable ball. Now and then you can
put
one down.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So how come you got into the breast reconstruction and breast subspecialty?
Yeah, because actually, I wanted to do bariatrics.
Okay.
Which is weight loss surgery, laparoscopic, and I presented some research in Canada, and I was traveling a lot with it. And then I went to an American meeting, and I went into the room. It was a subspecialty bariatric meeting, and in the room were middle-aged white men surgeons, basically. And I thought to myself, I can't work here. I cannot have. This is my daily life. I can't work with these men as my colleagues. So then I ended up walking into the room next door, and I did not want to do breast, and never in my life. But then I walked into the room next door, and there was an amazing woman speaker, and her name is Monica Morrow, and she's a New York Memorial Sloan Kettering powerhouse of a woman, has generated so much clinical and scientific research and contributed so massively to breast cancer as we know it today. And I thought, okay, this is where I want to be. Wow. So this is how I ended up in breast. And then I met my husband. So it was all meant to be.
Isn't it? I just found that so incredible that it was literally that you were on this path and then suddenly it just literally went through another door.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is my life.
Yeah. You couldn't, the saying, one door closes, one door opens.
Right.
Could not be more
you
true.
You slammed that door and you walked into the other one across the hall.
I was like, I walked into the bariatric and I thought, oh God, I can't do this. I've been with this group of people for the last 10 years of my life. I don't want it.
Yeah. And just shows the power of people and, how important, eventually what you end up doing, people will be able to do anything, but it's being in the right community of people.
Yeah. So what you said at the start is having those people, the right people around you.
Yeah.
It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And I also think that it also just shows that, you can sidestep and people feel like they should be on this one path and they're on it. They've worked hard for it. But then actually, if you just kind of go to the left or go to the right and just try something new, it can take you on somewhere you would never experience, we never would experience otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Have faith in yourself. I presented my path to medicine and surgery is really long and convoluted because I couldn't decide. I went to Australia, blah, blah, blah. And then I was speaking to some medical students, and they said, one of them said, it feels like you just wasted your life, or, you weren't clear in your own pathway. But, well, if you're 21, 22, 23, you should not be clear in your own pathway.
No
actually.
one is. Yeah.
And feel free to move and change. And we don't have to be one thing all our lives.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
It's incredible.
Have you got any like top tips for women undergoing breast reconstruction or breast cancer or anything? I mean, this is not, we're not looking for like medical advice for anyone from you, but
Words
because
of encouragement
you are in that field at the moment.
I'm going to, if we're talking about reconstruction, well, first of all, breast cancer is, we know now, actually it's a very curable disease. I'm not sure about the age group of your audience, but of course, most breast cancer diagnosed over the age of 65, it's curable. It's not an emergency. Great. Find your surgeon, find the person who you want to look after you, who you want to have a relationship with for the next 5 years. So, there's this thing, people feel like it's an emergency to have your operation in 2 weeks. You land with the first surgeon who sees you. You don't like him or her. Okay, most of the time it's a him, but you don't like him or her, and you feel like you have to, but you don't have to. So inform yourself, speak to people, find groups. There's a lot of Facebook groups now. Find the right person for you. That's really important. There's no urgency. Of course, we don't want you to be waiting 2-3 months, but it doesn't have to be 1 or 2 weeks. And the same goes for reconstruction, actually. So I'm just going to go back. The first part, that's very different for young women, I'm going to say. So I don't want, yes, there's a time, for most cancer you can wait, but for young women, yes, find the person that vibes with you. That's very, very important. But obviously young women who are going through breast cancer, it's a different journey to if you're 80 going through breast cancer. Okay. But again, find your group. Inform yourself, find Facebook groups, talk to people. There's a lot of information out there. Don't feel pressure to make a decision about your surgeon or your treatment. Get a second opinion, get a third opinion if you're not happy.
Okay.
There's a lot of information out there. In terms of reconstruction, it's a long pathway. Be prepared. And for that reason, again, it's very important to find somebody who you feel connects to you, who values you quite a lot. When I'm working, I often get young women who say, I saw this person and he just told me to take my top off and he didn't offer me a blanket. It's just simple things like that. And you feel as a woman that actually you feel silly for feeling bad about it or complaining. But if it didn't suit you, then it didn't suit you. Find somebody else.
Yeah,
okay, that's a good point, and that's a good tip, because especially when a doctor's telling you to do something, sometimes you just do as you're told. It's a weird ingrained thing. You're like,
yes, sir.
Yes, okay, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do, and but actually, take it, go home, think about it. Don't sit on it for months and months, but find that information and find a second and third opinion. Because sometimes you feel pressured, A, because of time, and B, because it's a medical profession. You're like, I don't know about it. I'll just trust what you say.
Right, exactly. And maybe I'm being silly for feeling this way.
Yeah.
But if you want to be covered, if you want a blanket over your shoulders, ask for a blanket over your shoulders. And if he or she didn't offer you a blanket for your shoulders, and you don't feel good about it, then find somebody else.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to, because the relationship is afterwards. It's 5 years afterwards. You stay with your surgeon, and it's even tougher for reconstruction. The pathway it's long. It's multiple operations to make a new breast. It's not in one go. Oh. Yes, you have immediate reconstruction, but often there are you need 2 or 3 operations after that just to make things better.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
No, I didn't know either. Wow.
Yeah.
So you want someone, who vibes with you, who has the right bedside manner that makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Respects you, understands what you want, as long as what you want is reasonable. But no.
Great.
You know, it's. I think it's important. And I say to my son sometimes, you know, and in Paris especially, because you know, you go to a cafe, right? They may or may not serve you. They may or may not be nice, Paris. But I love Paris, but it's just the way it is. But I say to my son, look, if the waiter's rude, you get up and you leave. You just don't have to put up with that kind of behavior, actually. You know, if it doesn't make you feel good, then find another cafe.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's important with life, isn't it? Is in any part of life is like if something's not making you feel good, like just try, like, you know, unless if you can and it's nothing, like just try and find another thing, and like, you know, nothing has to be set in, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah.
Very
advocate for yourself in little ways.
Definitely. And choose the environment.
Yeah.
If you've got the opportunity, choose the right environment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, well, thinking about your book, where is it sold? Where can listeners pick up a copy, and why should they read it?
Well, I'm told to say Amazon UK is the best place.
Okay.
Easiest place. So Amazon UK On Call is the name of the book. And why should they read it? When I started writing the book, I thought, well, as I said, it wasn't supposed to be a book, but when I was putting it together as a book, I thought, who would I love to read the book? And actually, I thought young people who wanted to enter medicine and people who had been through the health system. And that's because there's a book, as med students were told we must read, called House of God, which was written in the 1970s by a now psychiatrist in the United States. But it was so derogatory about patients and quite horrible. And actually what I really wanted, and I hope I managed to do in the book, was to portray how much our patients go through, because they go through a lot, you know, especially when you're on cancer journeys. It touches not only the patient, but everyone around them, family, children, everything. Life is turned upside down. And so, you know, I kind of wanted people to see just the enormity of it. But then I was being interviewed, and the journalist said, after reading your book, I'm going to look at people in a different way. Or I now look at people in a different way, because I realize I have no idea what people are going through. And I think if people walk away reading my book feeling that way, like I'm grateful for the health that I have and the wellness that I have, and I just don't know what people are going through, and then I'd be very happy.
Oh,
that's amazing.
You do feel that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very emotional roller coaster in your book, in the highs and the lows. There's there is breakup bits of like serious bits, and there's like some funny bits as well.
Yeah.
So I do think it breaks it up, but it is very kind of inspiring and also like reflective.
And definitely a bit tear jerky at times. I absolutely had some tears.
Yeah.
But no, it's great, and that's such a wonderful reason for people to read it. Thank you. So how can people find out more about you? So your social media, your website, anything?
Your business?
Business. So also feel free to mention your other business.
Right. Well, my other business is called Fur Love. Aww. Fur, F-U-R, love. And we've been going for about 3 years now, and now we're just launching through France and the UK, right? And basically, it's skincare for dogs. And dogs, they have exactly the same skin problems as we do: dermatitis, dry skin, the itchiness, and actually they need the same care that we do. We know that now, and you know they have the same microscopic changes as humans do. When humans moisturize, it's exactly the same. When you see those ads on TV about the woman putting the cream on her face and the skin barrier being fortified, it happens to dogs as well. So they need it, yeah. And so this is what we do. And we work with veterinarians, and now we're doing some major research in France.
Exciting.
So that's Fur Love. And then Actually, I get a lot of messages via LinkedIn, just my name, Ineke Meredith, and or Instagram. I had a website, but I'm terrible at updating it, and I just have too many things to update. But I have a lot of people who send me messages to ask for advice or questions, especially young women who want to enter medicine.
Yeah.
Or thinking about a career in medicine, or a mother whose child is thinking about a career in medicine. So I'm happy to receive messages.
Oh, that's so lovely. Well, we'll put your social media links in the show notes, both your personal one and also the Fur Love, definitely. Because I'm sure there's some dog owners
of course.
listening to this.
Lovely. Yeah, and also when you have a dog, you're like, yes, I need to. Now I know that. I'm like, I might buy it for Christmas for my mum's dog, my sister's dog.
Your family has dogs.
Yeah, my family has dogs.
Ooh, my family has
one
dogs.
in three. One in three households.
Well, I'm only not allowed one. I would have one. If
You're dog broody, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're very dog broody.
I want a dog.
But
we'll put all that on the notes as well, so people can link and shop through there.
Thank you.
But finally, what does health and happiness look like to you?
Well, I have a roof over my head, and yes, it's in Paris, and Paris is beautiful, but I have a roof over my head. I don't have food insecurity. I can go down the road, buy a baguette. I have no food insecurity. I have my arms and my legs and my brain, and I put my sneakers on and I go for a run, and I have the freedom to do that every day. And I'm well, and there are a lot of people who don't have the same luxury. I think it's important just to have gratitude and look, and just, I know it sounds simple, but just look for the simple things. The sun is shining, I'm in Paris. It's not the same for everybody, I know, but this is what it is for me.
It is the simple things though, isn't it? It's the small. Someone said the other day, it's the content things, like a cup of tea or coffee, or
the smell of your first coffee in the morning.
And that's the thing. You just need to.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, there are, of course, there's people who don't have all their arms and legs, and there's people in wheelchairs as well, but everyone has something that is functioning well in their body, and realizing that there's plenty of people who don't have that.
Yeah.
And especially reading your book, that's constantly what I was like, whoa, I'm glad I don't have that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So that's a wonderful way to end this chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
And likewise, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll put all the information in the show notes. We really hope our listeners delve into your book. It's been a fascinating read.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks so much. And thanks for reading me.
Yes, and really nice to get to know you. Have a lovely rest of your day in Paris.
You too, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. So, our chat with Ineke.
Yes. Oh, well, we'll talk in more depth in our weekly waffle.
Definitely.
But we hope you enjoyed that and we took some good things away from it.
I really hope you enjoyed that, because I did. And like I said at the beginning, I don't think you have to be a surgeon or interested in medicine
to read this book.
To get something from this book. Yeah, sorry, my stomach's grumbling.
My
stomach. Katya's yawning. Yes, but we enjoyed this, and if you've made it all the way through, thank you. As always, if you have any more questions for our guest, so Ineke this time, we have contact with her. You can just ask us, and we can ask her a question and answer it on another podcast. So don't be shy to get in touch with us. And don't be shy to go and buy her book.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. It's a good read. It's interesting. Sometimes I'll talk about Weekly Waffle.
Okay,
I'm going to hold that thought. I know you can listen to it on Thursday.
It's really difficult for us not to chat a lot at this bit, but no, we're going to chat more about our thoughts and our takeaway messages on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So we really zip it.
I've zipped it up.
Zip up that mouth. So we'll hope to see you there. And for now, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening all the way to the end.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us on hello@healthandhappinesspodcast.com.
Or we'd love to connect with you on our Instagram, Facebook or TikTok pages.
You'll find the links to all our socials and more on our website, www.healthandhappinesspodcast.com.
And lastly, before you go, please give our podcast a rating and a review. It really helps others find us.
See you next week.
Bye.